Today's lesson is Chapter 10, Lesson 1, Volume of Rectangular Prisms. So for the warm-up, we want to take a look at this aquarium. The dimensions of an aquarium are shown. What is the area of the base of the aquarium? So here, the first thing we want to do is we want to look to see that the base of this aquarium is a rectangle. Okay, so the formula for the area of a rectangle is area is equal to the length times the width. So the length of the base is 3 and the width is 2. So we end up with 6. So the area of the base of the aquarium is 6 feet squared. Very good. What is the height of the aquarium? So here all you have to do is just look at the picture, and of course that is 2 feet. So we want to fill in the blanks for number 3 to find the volume of the aquarium. Now the volume, of course, is how much stuff can be put inside. How much can the aquarium hold? So we've got the length, which is 3, the width, 2, and the height, 2. So we have 3 times 2 times 2, which gives us 12 feet cubed. Now, like we did with our previous lessons, we were talking about area, and area is units squared, where here you take a look, and volume is feet cubed. Now the reason that it's feet cubed is because when we are multiplying the length times the width times the height, we are multiplying feet times feet times feet. Okay, so just the same as if we had 2 times 2 times 2, and we wanted to write that using exponents, that would be 2 to the 3rd power, or 2 cubed. Here we have feet times feet times feet. That would be feet cubed. All right, so the first thing we're going to talk about here, volume of a rectangular prism. Now, a rectangular prism is like a box, okay? A rectangular prism has 2 congruent parallel bases, okay? The formula for the volume of a rectangular prism is the volume is equal to the length times the width times the height, which is what we talked about in the warm-up, okay? You will find that we will be using the general form of the volume of any prism, which is the volume is equal to the big B times the H times the height, where the big B represents the area of the base. Now when you look at the diagram here, you can see that there's the length. The length is right there. Then we've got the width and the height. Okay? Now, down here, I want you to make sure you write down all of these vocabulary words. Okay? A three-dimensional figure. A three-dimensional figure has length, width, and height, and that's the reason why when we are looking for the volume, we have units cubed. A prism is a three-dimensional figure with 2 parallel bases that are congruent polygons. So like I just said earlier, a prism has 2 congruent parallel bases. In a rectangular prism, the bases are congruent rectangles. That's why it's called a rectangular prism. Volume is the amount of space inside a three-dimensional figure, just like what we talked about in the warm-up. It is measured in cubic units, which can be written using abbreviations, and it can be you can write it using an exponent of 3. So in other words, like you can do inches squared. Sometimes you'll see that. Or sometimes you'll see square feet, like that. And sometimes you'll see feet cubed or units cubed, like this. Okay? Okay, so one way that you can decompose a rectangular prism is to see how many cubes will fit into how many cubes of a certain size can fit into the prism. Okay, the volume of a rectangular prism is related to the dimensions, the length, the width, and the height. Okay, another way that you can decompose a rectangular prism is to find the area of the base. Find the area of the base with cubes that are 1 centimeter or 1 inch or 1 unit tall. So you can find the area of the base, and then you can see how many layers you can put inside the box. So this bottom layer of all those cubes, you can can put 3 of them in there. So you can see you can put 1, 2, 3 in there. Okay? And when you are multiplying it times how many layers you can put in there, that pretty much is what you're doing, is you're multiplying times the height. So once you find the area of that bottom layer, which is the base, then you multiply times the height. That's going to give you the volume, or how much stuff you can put inside the box. Now, cubes are a special kind of rectangular prism because for a cube, all of the length, the width, and the height are all the same. And one way that you will see the formula for a cube would be the volume is equal to a side cubed. So that's side times side times side. And since they're all the same, that's why they put just one side. Now here is how you will see the formula for the volume, the general formula for the volume of a prism. Its volume is equal to the big B times the height, where again, the big B represents the area of the base, whatever shape it might be. And in this lesson, the shape is a rectangle, so the big B is going to be length times width. And then once you get that big B, then you can multiply it times the height. All right, for example 1, we want to find the volume of the given rectangular prism. Okay, so once again, we're going to write our formula. Volume is equal to the big B times the H. Now, rather than writing the big B times the H, you can just think it's always going to be big B times the H. But what I want you to write is volume is equal to the length times the width times the height. So when we find the area of the base, which is the length times the width, we're going to multiply 12 times 10. So there's a line here that they're missing that I would prefer that you write in there. So I want you to write volume is equal to the length times the width times the height, and of course we're going to write 12 times 10. And then we're going to multiply times the height. So 12 times 10 is 120, and then you're going to multiply those to get 720. Those times 6 to get 720. Okay? So just keep in mind that the volume is equal to the big B times the H, and the big B, again, represents the area of the base. Okay? Represents the area of the base. And then you're going to multiply the area of the base times the height, and that's going to give you your volume. All right, so let's do these problems together. Here we have a cube, and when we do the cube, again, we're going to start with our general form. Volume is equal to the big B times the height. And then we're going to realize that because we have a square here, the big B is going to be length times width. So we have volume is equal to the length times the width. Now, once again, there's something else that you're going to realize, that the length is going to be 5, the width is going to be 5, and the height is also 5. So all of the sides are the same. So you could write volume is equal to side times side times side, or side cubed. Those are S's, not 5's. So we wrote our formula, and now we can substitute. So this is going to be 5 times 5 times 5. And that's going to give us 125 inches. And because we're talking about volume, it's going to be inches cubed. Now, once again, when you do the cube, I am okay with you guys sticking to volume is equal to length times width and then just substituting in there. I'm okay if you just cut this part out. Okay? All right, so let's look at example B. Example B, we have another rectangular prism, and this time the base is an actual rectangle. So when we start with our volume is equal to the big B times the H, we are going to keep it volume is equal to length times width times height. And again, if you want to go ahead and start with volume is equal to length times width and times height, I'm okay with that too. So once you've written your formula, now you're going to do your substitution. So the length is equal to 10, the width is equal to 4, and the height is equal to 6. And now you just multiply. So 10 times 4 is 40, times 6 is 240 feet cubed. All right, in example 2, here is a cereal box that has the dimensions shown. And we want to know what is the volume of the cereal box. Oh no, there's fractions. Don't freak out. They're just fractions, and all you have to do is just change them to improper fractions, simplify before you multiply, and then multiply straight across. So, starting with our formula, this is a rectangular prism, so its volume is equal to length times width times height. So once you got your formula, now you're going to write your substitutions. So the length is 8 inches, the width is 3 1/4, and the height is 12 1/2. And now, before you multiply, you have to change them to improper fractions. Okay, so now we're going to change those to improper fractions. Now, if you forgot how to change them to improper fractions, shame on you, you need to review. Just kidding. 3 times 4 is 12, plus 1, that's 13, so we get 13 over the 4. The denominator stays the same. And then for the 12 1/2, we have 2 times 12, that's 24, plus 1, that's 25, and the denominator again stays the same. So there's your fractions. And then, of course, before you multiply, you should simplify. Very good. So here you can simplify, they simplified the 4 and the 8, and they simplified the 2, and then there's going to be a 2 up here. They skipped that step. So 4 divided by 4 is 1, 8 divided by 4 is 2. And then they did 2 divided by 2 is 1, and then 2 divided by 2 is 1. Okay, I don't want you to skip steps like they did. And then when you multiply straight across, you're going to multiply 1 times 13 times 25. That gives you 325. And 1 times 1 times 1 gives you 1. So your final answer is 325 inches cubed. So let's do this example C together. It says find the volume of a container that measures 4 inches long, 5 inches high, and 8.5 inches wide. Make sure you write down that problem, or at least write down the dimensions. So we're going to start with our formula. And once again, since this is a rectangular prism, we're going to start with volume is equal to length times width times height. And now you have your formula. Now you can do your substitutions. So the length is 4 inches long. The width is 8.5. And the height is 5. Now, before you multiply the fractions, you have to change them to improper fractions. So we've got 4 times, that's going to be 16/17 halves, times 5. And of course, yes, if you want to, you can put these over 1 if that makes you comfortable. Now, before you multiply, you should simplify. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. And now you're going to multiply 2 times 17 times 5 straight across, and 1 times 1 times 1. Now, of course, the associative property of multiplication says that you can multiply in any order you want to, so that is what I am going to do. I'm going to multiply the 2 times the 5, so 2 times 5 is 10, and then 10 times 17 is 170 over 1, which gives us 170 inches. And because this is volume, we have, inches squared. No, not inches squared, inches cubed. Very good. Good catch. I did that on purpose. Just kidding, I made a mistake. All right, so now we're going to find missing dimensions. Now, when we're finding the missing dimensions, it's the same thing as we were doing with the trapezoid, the same thing we were doing with the triangle, same thing we're doing with the parallelogram. You write your formula, you do your substitutions, you're going to substitute what you know, and then you're going to solve using your inverse operations for your unknown variable. Okay? So for example 3, you have this rectangular prism they're giving you. We're going to start by writing our formula. Volume is equal to length times width times height. Now you're going to substitute what you know. So they give us the volume, they give us the length, they give us the width, and we are going to solve for the height. Okay? So once we substitute all that in, we end up with 84 is equal to 6 times 4 times h. Now, they're doing something here that I don't like, that you've seen. What do we say about using the x for multiplication? We do not do it. I would prefer that you use parentheses or use the dot for multiplication. Okay? So, when we simplify, now we're going to simplify. We have 84 is equal to 6 times 4, that's 24h. So we've got a multiplication equation, and to get the h by itself, we'll divide by 24 on both sides, and we end up with 3.5 meters. Just 3.5 meters, not 3.5 meters cubed or squared, because we're just solving for the length of the height. We're just solving for the height. We're not solving for volume or area, so it's just meters. All right, so let's do our last example. I think it's our last example. And we're solving for the width. They've given us the volume, the length, and the height, and we're solving for the width. So once again, you're going to start with your formula. Volume is equal to length times width times height. Now you're going to substitute in what you know. So the volume is 94.5, and that's equal to the length, which is 7, times the width, which is what we're solving for, times the height, which is 3. And now we simplify. So we have 94.5, 94.5 is equal to 7 times 3 is 21, W. Now we have a multiplication equation, and to get the W by itself, we will divide by 21 on both sides. So here, the 21s will cancel, and W is equal to 4.5. 4.5 kilometers. And you're done. Now you can get started on your homework.